All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 131 of the On Air Advocate. We're at the On Air Advocate. We look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am super excited if you are joining us here this evening or whether you're catching this on the replay. Now, as always, if you think any of the content that we're going to be talking about today could be relevant for anyone in your circle or in your network, please hit the share button and share the love with others. Well, if you guys have been following us this month here at the On Air Advocate, you know that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we have started our series in that, and I'm so excited to welcome back our good friend of the On Air Advocate and my dear friend, Tylia Flores. She is an author, a writer, a cerebral palsy advocate, and she is passionate about mental health and sharing her story and her journey with that. So welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. It's an honor to be here with my favorite host.
Me and Tylia got to get together sometime. She's in Florida where it's warm. I'm in Wisconsin where we're still wearing sweaters. I don't know.
Yeah, but we need to get together and go to Margaritaville and have some margaritas.
Is that in Florida?
Yes, and they just opened the new one across the street from my house, so I'm excited.
That will help our mental health.
Yeah, that'll help. We could escape.
Perfect. So, Tylia, for those of you who maybe have not caught you on the show before, can you just give kind of a little snapshot just about yourself? And then I wanted you to take us on that mental health journey for you. And I know that you have written some articles this month about your adjustment disorder and whatnot. So we'll dive into that. But first, a little bit about Tylia.
Well, my name's Tylia Flores. I'm 23 years old. I have spastic cerebral palsy, and I published my first book at 16 after the tragic death of my friend Daniel.
That's a good wrap up. That was nice and short and sweet. And actually, you're working on another book right now, aren't you?
Yes, I'm working on another book that I just finished writing like a couple months ago, but I'm currently working on a third, so.
Okay, so we need to know about all those at the end of the show as well,
yes.
And where we're going to find those. So, Tylia, you have really kind of dove into the mental health area and really kind of discussing more about your journey and, through the succession of obviously having your own health issues, but also having people that have been very close to you have health issues and how that impacted your mental health and stuff. So wherever you want to begin.
Okay, so my journey begins with mental health at 15. Obviously, I lost my friend Daniel and I went through the grieving process. But once I turned 22 and I moved to a new area and adult life just hit me with CP, because you see all your friends moving out of your parents' house and getting married, and you want that, So when I was 22, I struggled a lot with finding myself and what I wanted to be as a person, as strange as it sounds, because I seemed already established, published author at 16, high school graduate. Now I'm on to doing great things, but yet I felt like I had this cloud over my head all the time. So when was it? Back last March, I'm sitting in the car with my mom on the way to the doctor's office, and I tell her, I haven't been feeling okay. And then she's like, well, maybe it's because we just moved to Claremont and you don't know anybody. But I found the move to be a little bit more harder than most people. If you think about it, because when you move, you have to get reacquainted. But throughout the year, I found myself not reacquainting with anything or anybody.
Okay, kind of like withdrawing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I lost focus on the things I love to do, writing, talking to people, just the whole 9 yards. And then I go to the doctor and they say, okay, you have anxiety and depression, so we're going to give you Flexitone. Now, Flexitone is this little tiny pill, 200 milligrams a day, but I would take it in half, and I will put it in my orange juice every day. And every day, I took that pill, I put it in my orange juice, and I felt better. At first, it was good, because I was able to focus, but I was getting hungry a lot. And that's one of the side effects. You get hungry and you start laughing a lot, uncontrollably. And then after a few hours, you get back to that state again. And through that time, I was trying to find myself. It seemed like I had everything together, published author, advocate, had a boyfriend that was long distance, and that took a toll because it was an online relationship and I wasn't able to visit him as much because he had health problems. He had for colon cancer, and I felt like I was failing him and everybody else. So what wound up happening was, back in September, me and him broke up after five years, and that affected me greatly. That caused me to go more into like a dark hole, if you figure. All I would do was sit in this room all day long and listen to rap music. And I just wasn't myself anymore. Until one day I said, you know what? I'm not going to take these pills anymore. I'm not going to let this anxiety, this depression get to me anymore. I'm not going to let adjustment disorder define who I am.
Right.
As a person.
Now, with the medication, would you say, from being someone who has experienced being on medication, to try to level things out, that the medication was actually helpful? Or do you think that it actually hindered things more? Like,
no, for me, it was worse. Like, I started getting pimples all over my body. I would cry. I would just sleep.
Okay.
Like, I'll be writing articles, and then I would go to sleep. I wasn't going to college as much anymore. Like, my whole life stopped. And actually, the first time you interviewed me was the first time I was able to get out of it, like, for the first time. But nobody knew. It was really bad, and I was afraid to tell people.
When did you stop taking, you said what were you on? Which medication?
Flexitone.
When did you stop taking that?
I stopped taking that on September the 8th, I remember, because I just had enough of it.
Right. Because it wasn't helping.
And it takes over your life. You feel like you need it constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what these doctors want. They want you to get addicted so that you could keep coming back. And it's funny, I went to a therapist, and she said, out of all the cases I've seen, you're unique and you're going to get out of this one day, and I'm going to see you on TV somewhere or doing something.
So have you continued to seek out through this process, and you going off of that, like, therapy?
No.
No, or did you not do counseling as well?
I didn't. I went to the mental health doctor once, and that was the only time I went back, because I felt like, yeah, they're there to help you. But in all respect, with all due respect to these doctors, all they want to do is keep giving you pills. Like, they wanted me to go back for genetic testing to see which pill works best.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, you're supposed to be helping me. You're not supposed to be making me a guinea pig. Take this pill, take that pill.
Right.
Instead of asking me, well, what's changed in your life that's making you feel this way? Do you go outside? Are you doing things active in your community? No, it was just pill, 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 pill. Oh, come back for genetic testing. And I told myself, I said, I'm not going to let this affect my life anymore. This is something I need to stomp on. I need to get back to writing. I need to get back to doing what I love and speaking about how I feel.
And was there maybe 3 or 4 pivotal things that you did? I mean, aside from the fact that I know inside you are so strong-willed, to say, okay, I'm going to get myself out of this, but things that you started to actively do every day to kind of change your mindset?
I started writing again.
Okay.
If I'm going to get out of this, I need to start doing what I love again.
Right. So you started writing. Did you find yourself like a kind of a sacred, serene space that you would go in? Like, would you go outside again? Did you find that was?
I did everything. Actually, right before I did your first interview, my parents took me to Universal Studios.
Oh, okay.
That's where that picture comes in the slideshow, because I wanted to send you pictures of what I did after I decided that this isn't gonna be no more.
Right. It's not going to define you. And you write a lot and you have a very strong, Facebook community of other writers that do have different medical conditions, chronic illness, all of that sort of thing. Do you guys ever discuss that together?
Yes, we do. Like, for example, my friend Juliana and my friend Kelly Douglas. You've interviewed Juliana once, and I love her, and she's like one of my best friends. She was actually one of the friends that guided me back to, like, I would call her and Bob Runkle. So yeah,
Mhm.
so we all talk about it together.
Right. And do you think that, when you talk about an adjustment disorder and so many changes, I think that sometimes the general public doesn't realize that, even if cognitively you're able to write and do those things, your life significantly changes after high school than what a typical, what I'm saying, a
Yeah,
21.
exactly. And I felt like that was one of my main problems because I was a homeschool student, but I went to public school from kindergarten all the way to 10th grade. And then I went to homeschool. Well, the problem is they don't give you resources after your child ages out.
Mhm.
They just say, okay, they could stay to their 22, although my parents didn't want that option. They could stay to their 22, but then the services stop, and it's like, how? You're just beginning life. You're
Right.
just trying to figure yourself out. And I think that's what happened to me. Even
Mhm.
though I wasn't involved in the public school system, I feel like that's what was happening to me. I was falling off the cliff, as they call it.
Because it's an extreme drop off, and I'm sure many who have watched this show have heard me talk about it, and that could be a whole talk show in itself. Is just the huge issue in the United States with the drop off that you turn 21 and then there's nothing. And for any of us, mental health wise, think about that. You go from, a lot of times if you are in the public school system, activities, different sporting things you can do, all to, everything is more eligibility services where you have to apply and see if you're
If
taken.
you get in, and that's not fair either, because there's so many people with disabilities that their parents work, and I speak to a lot of people with disabilities on Facebook all the time, talking about how their life is so bad because their parents just don't have the resources and they don't have the time. So if I
Right.
could impact that one person's life to say, no, I'm gonna help you do this and this, that way you're not in that funk, then I've done my job.
Mhm.
I've done my duty, and as an advocate, I feel like that's the most important thing in the world.
Right. And um, from your psychologist, when they classify that as an adjustment disorder, what does that really mean? Just to
Okay.
change? Like,
Yeah, like we can't, like, basically someone like me will become more depressed if I go through like a new job or moving, or like it's just harder. We just feel a certain type of way.
okay, we're going through that. But I mean, I feel like in the community of chronic illness, different abilities, different mobility abilities, and being caregivers, there is this huge pool of mental health that needs services and help, and things to nurture, us in more of a positive manner. Because I think, oh,
I agree on that 100%. And the thing is, with cerebral palsy, 28% of us go through depression. And I'm just one of those people in the percentile that sometimes I go through it, and but now I found ways to cope with it now because I'm not going back on pills.
right.
So now
So
I
what would be
just
your like, do you have 5 things that you would say?
okay. So writing's one. The
Mhm.
second thing will be listening to country music, watching Disney movies, because who doesn't like that? What am I on the third? The
Yeah,
third thing would
Disney
be,
movies, country, that's Blake Shelton, right? That's
yeah,
who you love.
yeah. And then
So
painting.
painting?
Painting portraits. I used to do it all the time. And watching the Angry Grandpa show on YouTube.
The Angry Grandpa show? I've never seen that. Is it funny?
It's funny, but it has a lot of profanity and he breaks stuff when he's mad.
The Angry Grandpa.
Yeah, it's called the Angry Grandpa Show.
This is Mental Health by Tylia. We got writing, country music, Disney Channel. No, Disney, just Disney movies.
Just right? Disney movies.
Just Disney movies. What was this one again? Oh, painting.
Painting, and then the Angry Grandpa Show, because he breaks stuff when he's mad. And he's an old man, but when he gets mad and he breaks stuff.
So
5 would be just going out with your friends and your family, because that's the most important thing.
Right, is to get out of the house. But as you are speaking to, some don't realize, for some, the huge issue with being able to get out of the house or to get transportation to go to different events and to different things. It's not quite that easy all the time.
No, it's not. It's not. And that's the dilemma that I was having for a couple of years, is that, yes, it's cool to hang out with your parents, but sometimes you don't want to hang out with your parents. I'm almost 24, and the way to get transportation here is ridiculous. You gotta wait for a bus. Mm-hmm. Then you gotta hope that insurance approves the transportation, which is ridiculous. That's why I have 3 different wheelchairs.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, what I hear from our community is that sometimes you'll wait for 2 hours for a transport vehicle to pick you up.
And by the time the bus gets there, it's too late. I was supposed to go to this program in Winter Park, but they wouldn't provide transportation. But my parents figured it out. My parents are rock stars, so.
They are, and they have a rock star daughter as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so with that, where were we? Transportation? Yeah, the whole thing with being disabled is that you have to adapt to your situation. And I know that's crazy that I'm saying that because I have this disorder, but if you find ways to conquer your disorder or whatever it is you're going through, I refuse to let adjustment disorder define who I am. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing you have to say to yourself, because if you use that as an excuse all the time, I have adjustment, I'm like, no, I stomp on it, it doesn't stomp on me.
Right. And that's shifting that mindset. But I think that, asking, the biggest thing, and what we talked about the last show was, when we talk about mental health, the campaign this year is to have real conversations, to not be scared, to not feel like it's not okay, to not be okay, and to talk to your friends about it in your circle and your support system, because they have ideas and they may have traveled that same journey as you.
Yeah, I get messages all the time about my article on the Mighty talking about what it's like to have anxiety and depression. And people tell me all the time, wow, your article saved my life. I had a lady that was 57 tell me, your article saved my life.
Oh my gosh. And what are some of the things that you do to bring down your anxiety? Do you have 1 or 2 things that you do to kind of redirect your focus?
Well, there's always my miniature schnauzer Hobbs, whose service to calm me down. And then there's always Blake Shelton.
Blake Shelton. I don't know where Blake is, but we need to let him know. I tried tagging him on Twitter a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, me too. And then I got followed by a fake Blake Shelton account.
Those imposters.
Yeah, they're like, I saw your videos. I'm the real Blake Shelton. I'm like, yeah, right. And I'm married to Blake. If you would have seen him on The Voice this season, Lord and Lord.
Okay, so everyone needs to tag Blake Shelton in this if you are watching this. We need to get this info to Blake. That he is an inspiration and he is helpful in Tylia's mental health.
Yep, exactly.
And And that's huge. That's huge. Well, and I want to speak a little bit from the caregiver, side of it. And this is just something that I want the audience to just think about numbers wise. And it's because it's a huge conversation that won't be had today. But the average caregiver, when we think about a caregiver, a lot of times we think that they're taking care of an elderly person, an elderly loved one. When we say the word caregiver, usually it's not people who are taking care of young people. A lot of times people envision in the outside public that it is a grandparent or a parent or whatever. They say that caregivers within a year to 3 years, 70 to 75% of them need to seek regular mental health counseling and treatment and suffer from depression.
That's crazy.
75%, right? So that's huge. And that's for a year to 3 years. So my question is, and if anyone's listening today and you want to throw out any thoughts or you want to come on a show and talk about it, we can think about those that are lifelong caregivers, especially, for their young adults or their kiddos or their babies that end up being full care. Where they're bedridden, they're in, a hospital bed, at home, on a trach, on a vent, all those kinds of things. What does that mean for us in this space? If 75% are down and out at a year to 3 years, what does it mean for those that are caring for 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 to 60 to 70 years for mental health? And then on the flip side of that, what about those like yourself, Tylia, or those that suffer from chronic illness?
Yeah.
And they're living with it. So not only did you have to be your own advocate, right?
But now you're living with it. And speaking of chronic pain, my chronic pain first started when I had my hip surgery back in 2001. They tried to correct the situation, but the hip fell back out of place. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, I've been having chronic pain, and that triggers me too sometimes. And that gives me anxiety too sometimes, because I think, man, if I didn't have CP, I would be here, I would be doing this, I would be living in Tennessee right now, owning my own farm.
Mm-hmm. By Blake Shelton.
Yeah, even though he's from Oklahoma.
I didn't know.
I'll have a cardboard thing of Blake Shelton on his album when he debuted Austin, and I'll be like, hey.
But yes, and I find that as we have talked to a lot of the individuals that are with the Chronic Warriors Collective too, of young adults that have chronic illness, chronic medical conditions that hinder them from going to school, or going to college because they're in so much pain, whatnot. They're not only being their own advocate for the rest of their life, they have to deal with the pain, what I'm saying, that's coming along with it, and the illness that's coming along with it as well. So I think to myself, so what does that mean for that population as well for depression?
Exactly. And that's why we all need to speak up on it, because people think, oh, they're just over exaggerating. No. Like the other day, for example, I was on my Facebook, and this scared me to death. I had a friend who was posting all these things, and I get those often, but this one just blew my mind. And what wound up happening was we called the police to get him some help. But when people write stuff like that, we all have to take it seriously.
Right.
Like, it's not a seeking attention thing, because, in some cases it is, but I ask people, please don't over-exaggerate mental health. Please don't.
Right. But it's always a good time to ask somebody if they're okay, or do they need anything, or how are you doing? Don't ever think that there's a time that you're bugging somebody to shoot them a text message to say, hey, how are you doing? We haven't talked in forever. What's going on with you? There is no time that's the wrong time. Wouldn't you agree, Tylia?
I agree, but better yet, instead of texting, call them. Like,
people don't do that much anymore.
Yeah, call. Don't text, because God forbid they're doing something crazy and they don't see the text. Call. That's what I always do. I call when I see somebody writing that stuff.
And now you have the ability through Messenger on Facebook that if you don't have their phone number and you see something, you could try to call them through Messenger on Facebook.
And you want to know what I always tell people, though? This isn't worth it. There's people out there that love you. Your family loves you. God put you on this earth for a reason. Don't don't go kill yourself in a sense because of a problem that is temporary.
Right.
Stomp on it.
Right. Because it can't rain forever, right?
No,
And no storm lasts forever.
no,
Mm-hmm.
nothing that's an obstacle lasts forever. I've gone through many, and dealing with this was just another obstacle that I said, you know what? I'm gonna write about this one day. I'm gonna start speaking about it, and there's nothing to be ashamed of.
That's right. And I would also say that if people are seeing things on social media, because social media is so prevalent, even if you don't know the person well, don't ever feel silly about reaching out. Don't
Yeah,
ever, I've done
no,
it many times, seen something, I don't know the person super, super well, but I'm like, hey, are you all right?
yeah, like I've done that a ton of times, and the person would say, "Wow, you made me feel a lot better. Thank you." I was like, "No problem." You know,
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think that in covering, obviously we have Tylia's 5 ways, but the big thing is that making sure that we're having real conversations with people, that we're being, trying to be open, honest, ask people how they're doing as well, and being there for each other. I think that for medication wise, I think that you really have to explore with a doctor what might be the right fit. And you have to, I always say that people should start out very, 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 very light on something and see how your body reacts. Because you know what, if the medication takes away all of your good qualities that you have, your smile, what I'm
then
saying, your enthusiasm, yeah.
then it's not worth it. Like me with the Flexitone, it wasn't worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I told myself this is not gonna be who Tylia Flores is. This person who is so beautiful and so bright, and I have so much more to live for. I'm gonna stomp on this. You know what I did? I told mom, take out those pills. I don't want them,
Mm-hmm.
and I threw them out. And I've been happy ever since.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, for everyone, I know you didn't do the route of the counseling, right? But, that's another route. If you feel like you don't have friends in your circle or people close in your circle to chat with, going to somebody who, has a different perspective and just having conversations, isn't a bad thing either,
Yeah.
Um,
No,
definitely.
and I mean, even today, I was having a little bit of a rough day because I had chronic pain, but I said, you know what? It could be worse. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I could be in a group home somewhere, not talking to my family, but I have a wonderful, supportive family like my aunt, my uncle, my parents, especially them, because I still don't know how my mom and my dad handle all the stress. It's stressful on all parts. But if you have a great support system and if you have somebody that guides you through it, you're going to be all right.
That is right. And you have figured out different ways for your chronic pain and whatnot. Like you were telling me you were having before the show, you're having a rough day, but we're doing the interview here in your bedroom, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
'Cause
so it just changed it. You just were flexible.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
I have more of a comfortable area. So as this, as we, kind of wrap up next week, Mental Health Awareness Month, what do you think is the most important thing that people should take away from this month?
The most important thing that people should take away from this month is first off ending the stigma and making sure that everybody is aware of what's going on within the mental health and the disability community. And not only just the disability, mental health, because it's huge. The suicide rates have gone up,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately.
The 10th leading cause of death in the United States is suicide.
And that's unfortunate. So we need to start looking into what are we doing wrong as a society that this is the new norm, because back in my parents' day they said this isn't normal.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Bourdain died, that chef that my father loved. My mom sat down and she talked to me about it, and she was like, if you ever feel that way, I'm like, no mom, I'm okay. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know So it was a very open conversation in my household about when I was diagnosed. At first, my mom was like in denial, but I guess she got used to it.
Right. Everybody needs their time to transition and
Yeah.
to give yourself, patience and grace through that time. I don't know, Talia, if you got a chance to look in the on-air advocate community, which you can join with the blue button at the top of this,
Yeah, look,
segment.
right there.
Right there. I posted this morning, which I was shocked. You need to read that article about in our state, because I'm in the state of Wisconsin, that they are sending almost all of their adolescents under the age of 18 out of state for mental health therapy. Like if they have to live and stay somewhere and they have a severe case or aggression issues, is that we do not have any establishments here in our state to be able to take care of that there are kids going all over the United States. And how hard is that on mental health? You know, you're being ripped away from your family, your support system, to go get the help you need, but then your support system isn't there. So when kids bridge out of the program, it's very hard because they've been living in a different state.
I think that's worse. I think that's terrible. That's a bad idea. Like you're taking somebody away from what they're used to and putting them in the environment where other kids aren't safe.
Right. And their families are hundreds of thousands of miles away. So you need to look at that article. I was absolutely shocked. And to know that it's here in our state, that we're one of the most prevalent states that does not have treatment facilities that are at a high enough level to be able to service this, and how they've been shifted out due to insurance and payments and facilities not being open. But talk about an adjustment disorder, you know?
Yeah, that's really, like, I couldn't deal with that. And you know, Tammy, when I first started going out again, I went to go see The Star is Born. Now, I did not know at the end of the movie what happens. For those of you who haven't seen it, well, have you seen it? If anybody hasn't seen it, click out of this real quick. Well, the singer commits suicide at the end.
Oh.
And I'm sitting there at the movie theater and I'm like, okay, my best friend's favorite artist is in this movie because he loved Lady Gaga. I love Lady Gaga. And then he goes through all these challenges and obstacles and he kills himself. And I'm thinking to myself, why would they put that in this movie? Like, although it was a great movie and it has a good soundtrack, but it's like they could have made it to where he got out of it, you know?
Right.
Instead of glamorizing the idea of, okay, life's hard, no, if life's hard and you're going through this disease, you keep going, because once you take your life and you're in that grave, your story's over. And in my opinion, it affects the whole family. Mm-hmm. You affect everybody when you do that. So please know that suicide is not the answer.
Right. You're not alone. You're not alone in this journey.
And in life, you're going to go through obstacles. I mean, look at me. Mm-hmm. From the time I was born, but I've been able to overcome every single one of them. And that's what I want everybody to know, is that you are important. God wrote your story before you were born. He knew.
Mm-hmm. Talia, you're going to get me again. There she goes.
But it's true.
He did. He so did. He so did. And you are not alone. And there are people that are out there that might be in a completely different state, that are definitely there to talk and, have traveled some of those similar journeys, and willing to share and be a listening ear, because sometimes that's all we need, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think that in my drafts that I'm working on for this book that I've been working on, it talks about mental health, because I have one character that has cerebral palsy and he has adjustment, and it talks about this and how he was able to overcome some of the things.
Yes, and as we were talking about at the beginning, you have your one book is done. Your other book is done now?
No, my other book, I finished writing the draft for it.
Okay, so do we not get to know about it yet?
We don't get to know about it yet. Unfortunately, I'm trying to have it out by 2020.
By 2020. Yeah, that's my goal, by end of 2020, maybe, for lots of things. It's a good goal.
Yeah, come to Florida.
That should be on the goal list, too.
Yeah, do a come back.
Even though I don't have margaritas, we can go hang out there.
Yeah, can you like do a convention in Margaritaville for the on-air advocacy?
Oh, I could eventually. Yeah, I want to do that. I myself am traveling my own journey of figuring out as, my son ages out of school and new life. And what are we doing?
New life.
Yeah,
As long as he
we're
doesn't
gonna go hang out in Florida. I'm gonna tell him when we're done with this. I think he might be watching on Instagram. We're gonna go hang out in Margaritaville.
Yeah, Margaritaville. And they just opened the new Margaritaville too. Like I was just there Friday.
Oh, awesome. Well, and
And
I
I
have
was like,
lots of others. All the friends that are in Florida, we all got to get together. They can come to
yeah,
Margaritaville too.
have a retreat.
Yes, a retreat there. Okay, so Talia just spoke it into existence. So
A retreat.
a retreat. We're gonna work on that. I'm gonna put it on the list. But anything that you want, you just speak it. You got to
Yeah,
speak it. You got to say it for it to come to life. For that
yeah.
mindset. Mm-hmm.
We gotta make it happen.
Yeah. So, Talia, if people want to read the rest of your articles and all the stuff that you write and do, where is the best place for them to find you?
The best place for you guys to find me will be Facebook and my website. And my Facebook is Stomping on Cerebral Palsy with Tylia, and my website is www.tyliaflores.com. But if you really want to find me, go to Instagram, Stomping on CP with Tylia, and I will get back to you. And my articles, you can just Google me now because I have articles all over the place.
Right. So if you put her name in, she's gonna pop up.
Yeah.
So that's all you have to do is but for some of those that you did on mental health and whatnot, after this live, can we drop those below in the comments? And then your website and all of that? Okay. Well, wonderful. Well, I am going to say, me and Talia, we were watching the clock today so that we stay on time because we could talk for about 3 hours if you let us. Just
Yeah. And I made you cry for the third time again.
I know, but I caught myself, and this time I was prepared with tissue.
Last time you were too.
I'm not like taking my coat and everything else and doing that. So with that, maybe Margaritaville next time. We can talk about mental health in Margaritaville. I'm not sure, but
we should do a live in Margaritaville.
Yeah. So we're gonna work on this. We're gonna definitely work on this.
Yeah.
So with that, I want everyone to really just embrace Mental Health Awareness Month. And obviously mental health is every single day. And the biggest thing is having real conversations with people and knowing that you are not alone. So whether it is shooting me a private message, shooting Talia a private message, shooting our community for the On Air Advocate, a private message, or putting it and posting something and saying, hey, I need help with this. Just know that there are people there to help and to listen and to be there for you.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, on that note, if you guys want any more information about the On Air Advocate, you can go to onairadvocate.com and you can find them all right there. And if you would like to join our private community, like me and Talia told you before, just head up to the top of the Facebook page, hit the button, and that will let you into the private group in there where we have real conversations all the time. So on that note, everyone have a fabulous Tuesday. If you're in Florida, I'm sure it's much nicer than it is in Wisconsin right now. And that's why when we plan this retreat, we're going to be heading down to Margaritaville, not heading to Wisconsin.
Margaritaville.
All right, and remember, everybody, tag Blake Shelton. Tag Shelton.
Tag my future husband.
Talia needs to talk to him.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, everybody have a fabulous evening, and I will see you later on this week. Thanks again, guys. Thank you so much, Talia.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.